Welcome everybody to today's class. Once again we're looking at idioms and phrasal verbs because there are so many in English. I'm sure we will never run out of idioms and phrasal verb lessons because there are plenty of new words appearing every single year which are phrasal verbs and idioms, and old ones disappear as well. So we have a lot to learn with phrasal verbs and idioms, and the best way to learn them is of course to use them. The more often you use them in your speech, the easier it will be to use them in other areas as well. So we're up to about chapter 10 or 11 in the book. This is from a book called Advanced Phrasal Verbs and Idioms. Hello Lolly Lolly. And you can find it on amazon.co.uk or Google. You can find them on Amazon or Google or any of these bookshops. It's a very easy book to find. It's a white book by Oxford University Press. That's where I've taken these from. However, every single phrasal verb that's on this board today, all of them I think. Hi Tanya. Every single phrasal verb is in my phrasal verbs book. So if you want to have a lot of exercises for these phrasal verbs, you can find this book on Amazon. It's £20 in black and white and £35 in colour, or you can find it on my website in PDF format, and it has hyperlinks so that you can easily go through to the answers and find out what the correct answer is. But it tests all of these phrasal verbs, it tests the prepositions, it tests the verb as well. And so it starts by going through do, make, come, take, etc, etc, and then it finishes by doing lots of the prepositions. Now, these phrasal verbs though, from the other book, from Phrasal Verbs and Idioms, let's have a look at what they mean. And I hope you can see that whenever you learn one phrasal verb, really you shouldn't just learn the one. You should learn two or three more at the same time, because usually there are two or three other phrasal verbs which are very similar and have a similar meaning. So for example, roll something up. Now, roll something up, if we're just dealing with a piece of paper and we roll the piece of paper up, it literally means roll it. It's what perhaps you would think it would mean. You don't normally roll up paper. The only time when you do usually roll up paper is if you're a smoker and you roll up a cigarette, because in this country anyway, the cigarettes are so expensive, most people who smoke rolling tobacco, and so they roll the cigarette up first, and it just means roll the paper up. But it's not the only thing. You could roll up a carpet, for example. You could roll up a rug. If you're moving house, you might want to roll up your carpet. But this has other meanings as well. If you say something like he rolled up late, it's very often used with late. It means arrival, but it very often means arrive late. So if you roll up 10 minutes late for the lesson, that means you arrive, you turn up 10 minutes late, you show up 10 minutes late. So please learn these other phrasal verbs at the same time that you learn roll up. It will make your life easier. So you can roll up to a party, meaning arrive, but roll up has a few other meanings. You can roll up your sleeves when you're hot. Now I've got short sleeves on, but maybe I've got very long sleeves and I roll them up, yeah? You can roll up your sleeves if you want to cool down. So roll up has a number of different meanings. Now, deal out is what a card player does. It's what the dealer does in any card game. He deals out the cards, okay? And so this is very similar to hand something out or give something out, because that means distribute many times as well. The teacher hands out worksheets, and the teacher may give out something else. Well, they may give out textbooks, something like that. It just means give a textbook to every single student in the class. So all three of those are incredibly similar, and you ought to learn them together. Deal out, hand out, give out. Now, if something sticks out, usually it just means come away from the main body. So you can stick out your arm. Maybe you're waiting for a bus and you stick out your arm to let the bus driver know that you're waiting for his bus. You can stick out your arm, you can stick out your leg. If you put your leg, I can't quite get it in the film shot, but if you put your leg out like that, put out, stick out. There are a number of different words we could use here. But you could stick your tongue out. Maybe the doctor wants to look down your throat because he's worried about your glands here, and he asks you to stick your tongue out. I'm not going to do that now, but it just means put your tongue outside your mouth, stick your tongue out. But this does have a second meaning that I'll deal with in a second. But two more phrasal verbs which are very similar. Jut out. Jut out is normally used for buildings and objects. When something juts out, it comes away from the building. So I've mentioned a few times that on this shed, some of the bits of wood, I made them much shorter so that they wouldn't jut out and hit me, but still I walk around the side of the shed and I bang my head on the bits of wood that jut out. Stretch out, you can stretch out your arms, yeah? Or stretch out your legs. So that's very similar as well. So stretch out, very similar to stick something out. Although I would never say stretch out your tongue, stick out your tongue, certainly. So this one, it really is for stretching as well as putting out. Now, stick out can mean also hold out, meaning survive through a difficult period. So maybe you say something like, the company had a really bad month last month and it was so bad we thought we were going to go bankrupt, but we managed to stick it out and now things are looking better again. Meaning we managed to hold out, we managed to survive in spite of great difficulty. So it has that second meaning as well, and many phrasal verbs do have these second meanings, I mean. So this is why they're difficult. Very often they have multiple meanings. Now, zip something up. We also say button something up. Yeah, if I do my button up here, do the button up, I button up my shirt. And so button up, zip up, do up, tie up as well, and even wrap up, which means completely close. They're all connected. You want to learn all of these words at the same time. Much easier approach. So zip up your coat, tie up your coat, do up your coat, do up your shoes, tie up your shoes, and even wrap up presents or wrap up warm. We also say wrap up warm, it's cold out there, meaning put on lots of layers, put on lots of clothes. They're all connected, please learn them together. Now, if you double up, this is normally, it means a motion of the body, a gesture of the body, and usually it means you're in great pain when you double up, and it's a pain in your chest or in your stomach. And that's why when you double up, you hunch your shoulders over, you bend over when you double up. Bend over is another very useful phrasal verb, which is really similar to these ones, bend over. So you bend over when you double up, and usually it's because you're in pain, or maybe you're laughing so hard that you double up in stitches. You double up and hunch over, you bend over because you're in so much laughter, but usually pain, being honest, rather than laughter. And you can also double over or keel over. Keel over is definitely pain. When somebody keels over, it sounds like they're having a heart attack. So these two, I think, double over could be laughter as well. He doubled over in stitches of laughter. But keel over, I'd never say keel over for laughter. It really is just pain. But all three involve bending over in some kind of way. Okay, if you tie your hair up, you put it in a ponytail. You tie it up, yeah? And if you let it down, it hangs down, it comes down. So notice the similarity between hang down, let it down, come down. We use this preposition down to show that the verb's letting something fall down loosely. So tie your hair up or let it down. Prop something up means help something stand up. So some things have trouble standing up, yeah? And if I have an arch in the garden with some with some bushes that go over it in a nice arch, and it's very pretty. But it really wants to fall over, especially on a windy day. The wind tries to blow it over. It's very heavy. So I have to prop it up with pieces of wood. And I managed to do it about a year ago, where I managed to prop it up with a good piece of wood that's still holding. And I don't want this bush to fall over. I think it would die, or it will make it difficult to get it back up again. So you prop something up when you help to support it, to help it stand up. And the same with shore something up. It's when a building is perhaps starting to fall over, and so you shore it up with some building materials. But both of these two can be used metaphorically. You can say the government has pumped a lot more easy money into the economy in order to prop it up. They want to prop up the economy. yeah, with cash injection or something like that. So you can prop up the economy in various ways, and you can shore up the economy in various ways. So they're used metaphorically as well. Now, if you screw something up, this is probably best to show you with the piece of paper again. It's very simple. It just means that's screw something up. Think of tear something up and rip something up, because that's what they're connected, really. I mean, tear up would obviously mean into many, many pieces, because that's the up there. It means many, many times. Tear up, rip up, tear it in into many pieces. So tear up, rip up, and screw something up. But remember, screw something up has a second meaning, and it means to mess something up, to make a mistake. Now, there's a very well-known swear word here, which is also used with up, meaning to make a terrible mistake. And there are actually loads of swear words which are used as phrasal verbs. If you listen carefully, you'll see that most English swear words have some kind of phrasal verb. You'll be able to add a preposition somewhere, and it will add a layer of meaning to that swear word. So phrasal verbs are everywhere. They're in our swearing as well. We learn them right from the beginning. Most of these phrasal verbs, very, very little children know. I guarantee that they know all of these. And it's because they're brought up with these phrasal verbs. We bring them up speaking the phrasal verbs right from the very beginning. They really are real English, and I would never call them slang. I've heard a few people call them slang. The swear words, I suppose, are slang, but it's a real living part of the language, and it's not going to go away. So this is something you really want to get to grips with. So screw something up, make a mistake, or just screw something up. Curl up, you can curl up, or it sounds like you're in a really comfortable position when you curl up, a warm position. You usually curl up on the sofa, or the cat can curl up on your lap, something like that, when it's all nicely like a little fetal ball, and you feel very warm and comfortable when you're curled up anywhere. So it's quite a nice one to use, curl up. And also mop up, I'm not sure if you can see that one right at the bottom. Mop up means to clean up a liquid that's been spilt. If you knock over your glass of water, you then need to mop it up. Now, I've got 2 kids, and so they constantly knock over drinks, and you're constantly mopping them up, or you're getting the kid to mop them up. And so this really does mean clean up, tidy up. You can also sweep up if you're using a brush. You sweep up as well. So mop up, sweep up, clean up, tidy up. Please learn them all together. It makes them easier. Chuck something away, toss something away, throw something away. It means dispose of rubbish. Dispose of is another good kind of phrasal verb, really. It's not quite a phrasal verb, but it's got a verb and a preposition, so it's very similar. Now, if you spread out your equipment on the table, it just means that you lay your equipment out. You set your equipment out. It means you arrange them. You arrange the pieces of equipment on the table. So maybe you have a large map, but it's in a small, it's all folded up. Yeah, the map has been all folded up, so you need to unfold it and spread it out on the table. Lay the map out on the table. Yes, set the map out on the table so everybody can see it. So spread something out, lay something out, set something out. They're all pretty similar. Now, if you manage to lay your hands on something, this sounds like this something was hard to get, and you managed to get it, even though it's hard to get and you desperately need it. So, you might want to lay your hands on, it could be anything. Maybe you're a collector and you collect stamps, and there's a particularly expensive stamp, a particularly rare stamp, a valuable stamp, and you want to lay your hands on it. You want to get your hands on it, but it won't be easy. You'll probably have to fork out a load of money. Yeah, and so fork out means spend, but you might say splash out here because it could be positive, but we'll deal with those in a second. If you pay off all your debts, you've completely paid them. They've gone. You've got no more debts left. So this is a very positive thing. We all want to pay off all of our debts, of course, so that we don't have to pay any more. If you pay your own way, then you pay for yourself. And this is obviously a positive thing because used to say that somebody is big enough and grown up enough and mature enough, and perhaps they earn enough to pay their own way. They don't have to rely on the generosity of others. They don't have to depend on other people. Now, if you bail somebody out, you rescue them, and sometimes it's used metaphorically just to mean rescue, but strictly speaking, it's financially rescue. So it's when somebody is in a terrible financial position, bankruptcy, or maybe they just don't have any money left. Maybe they're a student at university. They're not able to get by on the small amount of money that they take from the government, if they get any at all. And so their parents might have to bail them out. And that would mean give them money to rescue them, to save them. But quite often it's used for banks as well. When there was a crisis in 2008, everybody was asking, should the government bail out the banks? Meaning, should they rescue the banks? Should they pump money into the banks to rescue them and make sure that this private business doesn't go bust, doesn't go bankrupt? So that was very often in the news. Oh, two more things. We do say curl up with embarrassment. So this is back to curl up. We do say curl up with embarrassment very often. If you're really embarrassed, you curl up with embarrassment. If you're mortified, which is just a strong word for embarrassed, then you might curl up with embarrassment. And you also mop up the details. Coming back to mop up. When you mop up the details, it means you finish off the small remaining tasks that need to be done to get something completely finished. So you're just mopping up the details when you're dealing with the last parts of any project that need to be done to get it finished. Okay, if you live on the breadline, that means that you're on a very low salary. You've just got enough to survive. You've just got enough to live on. You've just got enough to get by on. You only just manage to get by when you live on the breadline. You only just manage to make ends meet. That's a very common idiom, meaning to be able to pay for everything, basically, to be able to pay for all the necessary things in life. If you're able to do that, you're able to make ends meet. Now, you fork out on things which are very expensive and you don't enjoy spending the money on. And you can fork out money on something. So you can fork out £10 on something. You can splash out £50 on something. Yeah, your money goes in there in that position. Fork out something on something. But fork out is when you don't enjoy spending the money. Splash out is when you do enjoy spending the money. Maybe you splash out on a new holiday. Maybe you splash out on a lovely new car. But you might have to fork out money whenever you pay your taxes. In fact, nobody enjoys paying taxes, so they fork out money on their taxes. Now, to be worse off means to be in a worse financial position, and to be better off means to be in a better financial position. And you ought to remember the adjective well off. His parents are very well off. His family is very well off. He comes from a well-off background. All of them mean wealthy. Yeah, well off means wealthy, or maybe not rich, but fairly rich, let's just say. Well off is fairly rich, provided for, well provided for. Now, if you fall back on something or fall back on somebody, you resort to that something, and it sounds like it's a last resort. It's the last thing that you can depend on, that you can rely on, and so you fall back on it. And it helps you, it rescues you. So if we come back to that student whose parents bailed him out, you might say he fell back on the money from his parents. He fell back on their help. Yeah, he resorted to his parents' help in the end. Yeah, and so this is what fall back on means, when you resort to something. And lastly, land somebody in, end up in, finish up with, or finish up in. It's these two that I really want to focus on. Land somebody in or end up in. If something lands you in a terrible situation, and I think that both of these are usually used with negative situations, it just means you finished in that position. So if you landed yourself in a predicament, or you landed yourself in bankruptcy, something made you end up bankrupt. And so very similar to land somebody in and to end up in a particular situation. They both mean to finish in that particular situation. And I'm going to take it off the board, finish up with, because I don't think that's quite the same. Finish up in maybe, but end up in is much more common, and land yourself in, meaning to end up in a terrible situation or a difficult situation. It's always negative for these two. Yeah, I don't think you can say you landed yourself a good job, but that doesn't have the in. And with the in, I think it's usually negative. He landed himself in an awful situation. He ended up in an awful situation. So they both work very well. Okay, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask, because I've got my full attention on the phone, and so I can see your comments. But unfortunately, it's hard for me earlier on because I'm looking at the board and I can't speak to you guys at the same time. But if there are no questions, I want to remind you all to buy my book. It's on Amazon and it's on my website. The website is skype-lessons.com. I'll quickly write that up here. And so if anyone's interested in buying this book, it's £20 on this website, and it has hyperlinks and all the rest of it. And that will be sent to you straight away if you go to the website. So thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate all your support. Please like, subscribe, and I hope to see you all soon.